Woo! Woo! That's a lot of honey, actually.
Is
You
it?
overcompensated in this.
I did overcompensate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we recording now? Oh, wait, but I literally always forget we have to do the intro. I
Right.
hate the intro. I hate that I have to say my name.
I am Kenzie Janest,
I am Doug Friedman.
and this is your mental breakdown
Is your breakdown of mental illness. Your breakdown of mental.
on a podcast.
The breakdown. The mental podcast breakdown. That actually doesn't sound too bad. All right. We're here. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Doug.
We've got some tea.
Hi, Kenzie. We've got some tea. Ready for this tea, this gossip? That's
I
how
was being
that's how
literal,
the
but you were
kids
going- yeah.
say it, right?
Yeah, spill some tea.
The kids slash
Don't
my
spill the tea,
generation.
by the
I am
way. The
not gonna
cleaners
spill
just
the tea.
came.
Well, also this very expensive equipment. I could never. I only have 2 beverages today, everyone,
That's right. That's right. Oh,
because
wow.
I forgot my water bottle.
Ah.
Maybe that's why I don't feel right. I don't have water in my system. I just have caffeine straight to the veins.
You're such a banana.
I am a. Wait a minute. Does that have a different meaning to you?
No, I just learned that from you.
Well, what? That was so random.
I don't know. I felt like working in banana somehow.
But I'm a banana for different reasons because I have a lot of bruises. I'm
Oh,
anemic.
right. Oh,
so
I bruise easily. I'm a banana.
I bruise easily. Yeah.
Ah,
So
yeah,
my
yeah.
partner calls me a banana.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hilarious.
I like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did we have questions or am I hitting you with one?
Oh, you can hit me with one.
Okay. Well, I have a couple
Hit
of
me
things.
with your best shot.
Don't. I'm going to. I almost sang the song.
So
Okay.
you do know that. You do know old songs.
Doug, who doesn't know that song? Really, sometimes it offends me how surprised you are that I know like the world's most popular pop songs.
I will give that up if you stop being surprised that I know some current stuff.
I'm not surprised that you know current things. You know arguably more current things than I do.
That's why
You're a Swiftie. God. Okay.
Are you sad that the Eras tour is ending in December?
Is it the
of this
end
year?
of the era? Of the Eras
It's the end
tour?
of the Eras tour in
I don't
December.
even know. What do you mean it's the end?
So she's been on tour for like a year and a half,
Oh my God.
Right.
Okay, more power to her. I mean, I
making
couldn't do
like
that.
over $1 billion on
I'm
a
sure
tour,
she
something
is.
crazy like that, right?
I'm sure she is.
Uh-huh.
Are people like heartbroken?
Of course.
Really?
Yeah.
How long can a tour go on?
Oh, it can just keep going. I mean,
Forever?
the Grateful Dead arguably toured for 30 years and are still going
Straight?
at it.
You got to take breaks though.
Pretty much. Well, sure, you take breaks.
Yeah, what do we consider a tour run? Like
I don't know.
nonstop every week you are performing?
Well, I guess there's different legs of a tour. That's how you say it. Like there's the
Okay,
European
okay.
leg, and then we're going to do the
How do
US
you-
leg, and then we're going to do the Asian leg. And
Okay, I can't help but wonder how people maintain relationships.
speaking of
They're touring.
legs, do you know what the 3-legged dog said when he walked into the bar?
I'm looking for the man who shot my paw.
Very good.
Thank you. Troy, shout out. That's one of Troy's dad jokes. Troy's not a dad, but he might as well be.
Right?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, last time we were talking about if change is possible, right?
Yes.
Which, update, I still need to talk to my therapist about why he asked me that question. I'm working on it. I need to remember that. I have a new updated question for you,
Oh.
for us, for you though.
Yes, change is possible, especially with your socks, but you have to remember to change them
Okay.
frequently.
Speaking of socks.
Yeah, I know. I saw
You're
your
trying
socks.
to out me, huh? Yeah. I'm wearing toe socks, okay, everyone? I'm not a toe sock girly. I am not a toe sock person. But they were the only clean pair of socks in the sock drawer today. So that's what we're working with. And do I feel weird? Yes, I do.
But they're clean socks.
But
That's
they're clean
the
and
point.
that's all
You
that
changed
matters.
your socks.
Yeah. Are you calling me out because last time I told you that I didn't change my socks one day?
That's right.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me and everyone who's listening right now.
All right, banana,
Okay.
fire away.
Most importantly,
Yes.
here's my question.
Go.
We know that change is possible now, right? From our very thorough research and discussion.
Breaking news, science update
Change
on the
is
podcast.
possible.
Yes.
Because neuroplasticity is awesome. Okay, ready? How much should we change for other people?
Well, I would say it starts with fresh socks.
Oh my God. Don't make this a joke. This is so serious to me.
Is it really?
Yeah, I'm a very relational person, relational therapist, and this is a line. What are you looking for right now?
I'm looking for a book because I'm going to get the title wrong.
Okay, it's not the missing piece.
No. It's Do I Have to Give Up Me to Be Loved by You?
Okay, perfect. Which, no, you do not have to give up you. But I want to know where the line is. And I know it's different for everyone and that this is a very nuanced question and answer.
Yeah.
But I've heard multiple things where change is inevitable in relationships. You must change for the other person a little bit. That is pro-social behavior. That is great.
Change for the other person, change with the other person.
I mean, obviously change with. You don't want to be the only one making changes.
Right.
And I know one of your favorite things is bend, don't break.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
Which I like too. But how do you know? How do you know that you're making a change just for somebody else or if it's going to be in benefit of your own growth as well?
Right.
Like you're doing it for both. How do you know?
Well, are you doing it for both? It takes a lot of reflection because there are some relationships that I've heard about and probably been in where one person is changing more than the other or changing in ways where they lose their sense of self.
Right. And is it even possible to have an equal amount of change? Because you can't really measure that. So how do you know that it's equal? Because like you said, usually we find one person is having to do more change than the other or more compromise.
Well, and how do we know that?
It's perception, I guess. Like how do they feel about how much change they're making?
Yeah, but I don't mean that as an esoteric question. I mean that how do we know? Like
okay.
Somehow in the relationship, it'll come up that I'm changing more than you are. This doesn't feel right. And it might turn into an argument. It might be a discussion. It might just be one person withdrawing or acting different or harboring resent. You know, who knows?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's how it comes up often, like long term, right? Is that we didn't realize how much we were changing for the other person or vice versa. And now that person's harboring all this resentment because they're like, oh, why did I do all of this?
And here's a shift I would poke at a little bit. Changing for the other person. Okay, I get that. But the change is over yourself. So you're the one that changed. You didn't recognize that you were changing and moving away from how you really want to be and yourself. Right.
So it is existentially kind of a responsibility question here, right? Like we have the agency and choice to decide whether we know it consciously or not, we are making that choice to change for some reason inside of ourselves that feels worth it.
Right.
That's the reflection and introspection is that like unconsciously there are reasons and we have to bring those to our conscious awareness.
That's just it. Bring it to our conscious awareness. Sometimes we don't realize how much we've moved away from ourself or sense of self.
Yeah.
Until
it's apparent.
Right.
Right.
And it's apparent in some way that's so startling that we often have a big reaction to it.
Yeah. And then we feel like we're living this double life or we have this dissonance inside of us. Or I see this a lot.
And we blame the other person for making us change.
Exactly.
They didn't. I would say, can we switch that and instead of the resentment go, wow, thank you for showing me how off center I am from my true center.
Right.
Now I have the opportunity to figure out who I am and how I am. And here's the very hard part. That might mean
yes, this is it. Yeah.
We don't work.
Exactly. That's what's been coming up a lot lately.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, well, what does it mean if this is truly who you are now and you're actually feeling like, oh, this is my authentic self and it does not align with the relationships around me. Like I don't feel like myself now with these people.
Well, and that can also happen in relationships, especially over time when one person is changing and evolving and the other one isn't.
Sure.
So motion is relative. It could be the person that has stayed the same that is the one that has changed, quote unquote. You know what I mean by that?
Kind of. I'm trying to get there.
Literally, they haven't changed. But you know, if somebody
but the relationship has changed.
Yeah,
because
or
one
just
person has.
Time has passed and things evolve, and somebody is still set in their ways or still this.
Right. They're not like going with that flow of change.
Like, and they'll say like, oh, well, you've changed because when we were together, you were like this, like that. And like, well, you've changed by virtue of standing still.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. You haven't really like gotten with the times. You have not kept up or gone down that flow, that river with me. Because it's kind of the just age old, like, oh, you either grow together or you grow apart kind of thing, which I hate that it's kind of binary sounding, but it kind of is true. I mean, you have a choice in the matter. It's not like life is deciding for you by any means, but it is like of course, relationships are not all supposed to be long-term forever relationships. That's a whole other can of worms.
Maybe. Well, and part of being together and being a team is that you can go over there and do that, and I can go over here and do this.
Differentiation.
There you go.
I love differentiation, but that's another can of worms. Maybe we'll get to that another time. But I've really been enjoying that concept lately.
Yeah, it's really interesting when people, I was going to say clients, but anybody becomes a parent. And that idea of differentiation you see with a child. because it is going through the process, literally of differentiating that I am
my own person.
Right.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And it happens in relationships too, adult relationships.
Right. The parents are watching this and they're seeing this and they're experiencing it from the other side.
Right. We talk about that with Drew a lot too.
Yeah.
And Sarah.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting.
Speaking of Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
Should we get to that?
Oh. What now? What do we do?
Well, typically we like to listen to a session that you have so brilliantly executed.
Debatable.
Right.
Which we will debate.
Yeah. And that's what I'd like to get to is that
session. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say we can get to that
after people check out social media.
There you go. You did it almost with a straight face.
I can't do it. I just can't. I can't plug social media in all seriousness.
You know what you said? And I will get our people to look into this.
What? Would anyone be interested? I know you are. There are people out there who would love to give us a call. Leave
what you were
voicemail.
saying. Yeah.
That could be so fun.
I
would love that to actually hear voices and respond to them.
Yeah.
If we happen to have a number that people could call and ask a question.
Right.
Would love that.
We can see if we get the hotline bling.
My people will be calling your people.
Do you know hotline bling?
I know what a hotline bling, right?
Should we give them your home number so they can call you?
I was going to say my landline. And shortly we will have a voicemail number. We can figure that out. You can figure that out.
Well, we might go on a little summer break. So that'll be my summer vacation.
Your little summer project.
Yeah. I'll do a little here's what I did this summer. I figured out how you can all call me. Yeah.
Great. I love it. I'm excited.
All right.
Okay. Let's get into it, shall we?
Okay. Let's do it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Then, of course, there's the sort of not so nice stuff that the kids are going through right now at their dad's house.
Yeah. How is that? Has that stabilized a little bit over there for them?
From the kids, what I understand is that girlfriend gone. She basically took everything in the house, like they'd been robbed while they were traveling. So she took everything. Apparently, she cleared the rest of the house out. Took 2 of the cars. I mean, she just cleaned him out. And like on one hand, I'm like, oh shit, poor guy. On the other hand, I'm like, nope, that's fucking karma. He deserves that and more. But the kids don't. The kids don't deserve that. But when I was asking son about it, he was like, I feel sorry for dad being all alone now.
Right.
And of course, I'm super sad that I don't get to see his stepbrother. And I could tell he was pretty sad about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge.
It's a lot.
So there's a lot going on around you.
So in all honesty, last week, I felt like the most healthy version of me.
Wow.
I was leaving work at work. I was coming home, hanging out. I was tired by 10:30. I was getting some nice sleep. This week has been a little crazy, but that's on me. And it's what I told you at the beginning, right? It's a work thing that I am like determined to do, and I did reach out for help, which I was very proud of myself for.
Wow.
I'm going to give myself a pat on the back.
Nice.
I would never normally, I would just be like, no, obviously I can figure this out.
Right.
But I did reach out for help because they're a team of people. I'm just one person. I put it on myself because I want to make it work. I know it can work. I just have to, it's JSON code, which I never touched before in my life. Like all day today, I was feeling a little sad about my cousin because this is where I would say, dude, here's what I'm trying to do. Write me the code. And he would give it back to me in minutes. He'd just be like, and send it right back.
When you said I reached out for support, I literally flashed on your cousin because that was, as you described it, like that was my person. We could talk Excel. We could talk, JSON's JavaScript or whatever it is, and he's not around. So I've got this team that's helping me, but I don't have my person.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
100%. Yeah. But it's good. I mean, I think that those are the kind of nice things when you remember, like the memory is triggered, sure, by something that I would normally reach out to him for, but it makes me stop in my day and remember him.
Yeah.
It made me sad, but then of course,
Yeah.
have to move on.
No, I love that because that's, I mean, look, I don't love that it's hitting the loss and the absence of him. But how you just described it is I could reflect fondly on when your cousin was here and in my life and what that presence was like versus I don't think of him at all anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think of him a lot.
Yeah.
But not usually. I should say usually like in, when we're having family time or we're all sitting around playing poker, he's not there.
Right.
Those are the biggest moments for me with him.
This is something where it's still about his absence, but it gives you the opportunity, like you said, to recall what it was like when he was in your life, when he was here.
Yep.
And to remember that and remember him.
Yep.
That's...
Yeah, it's good.
It's bittersweet. I mean, to me, it's the definition of bittersweet. It's bitter and it's sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
Even when we're working on something that we really like, and if you're learning something new, that's hitting a part of your brain that you love. You love taking in new information and it's got a purpose now and a deadline now. And at some point, we need to acknowledge that it's taking a lot of energy. Even if it's good things,
a
like
lot.
You're working a lot, you're playing a lot, you're hanging with the kids, you're hitting the punching bag, playing the drums. There's a lot. And it's still a lot of energy being expended. We need to make sure we recharge by virtue of rest.
I've been using like my bread making and my drumming as my sort of interlude to shutting down because those things make me totally shift focus. I feel like they're kind of hobbies, which I've never really had before. I've always wanted to do all these things, but I think I told you last time, like my brain was so full of all this other stuff. I didn't really have room. And it's been really great. Like I felt so relaxed. I don't feel unrelaxed this week.
Right.
I can feel myself going back into my hyper mode. And I don't know that it's a bad thing. Like there's something that needs to be done.
Yeah. I love hearing that from you. Like how you're describing all of this. I listen for, are you just staying in that one gear and you're on all the time? And what you're describing with the bread making, with the drums, it's a shift. You're downshifting. That's awesome. I don't know what you'll think of me phrasing it this way, so let's see what happens. That's you prioritizing yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Where'd that come from?
I've been talking with this guy like once a week. He gives me all these ideas. It's actually become like a whole topic of conversation in the office because everybody's, I've always been such a work, leave, come back, work. Now I'm coming in and I'm like telling everybody about, the new drum beat that I'm learning or how I made the best loaf of bread yet.
You really do look different.
It's authentic. It really is. I'm like a whole new person when I think about things like that. It's interesting you say about how I look because my eldest sister, she has now said it to me twice. Like, I can't believe how different just as a human, like you look, your face is different and you're just like, she was noticing it very acutely, I suppose, because she was like making a real point of it twice. And I was like, sweet. I do feel much more relaxed and much more happy overall. I don't have a lot of, I have my court date coming up next week. And honestly, I completely forgot about it until my lawyer reminded me. Oh yeah, crap, that's coming up soon, isn't it? Dude, a year ago, that would have been the only thing I ever thought about.
Right.
And it would have like clouded everything else.
So what do you think has changed for you?
I mean, a lot of things have changed for me. I think probably the most important thing and what I know I initially started out telling myself on purpose was what you told me, which is do you still need this box of protection and control? It served you well in the past.
Right.
Do you need it? So I kind of look at that in every situation. And it's less I have to tell myself. Now it's just kind of happening. I see that it needs to be taken care of, but I don't get that rush of anxiety. You should see my house right now. Honestly, boyfriend started setting up a little bedside table with 2 drawers, and he just didn't finish it. So is laying on the living room floor. The box is still there. And I have been sitting in this room all day. And I haven't said a word. In fact, it didn't even really bother me.
You haven't nagged him. You haven't gone in there and done it yourself. Like, you're fine. I think what was pretty amazing last time was you seeing it by virtue of your brother and how he holds religion and how he holds faith in that way.
I've been telling everybody about this big moment. I was like, I'm saying, oh, my brother's like, quoting Bible verses and telling us like, this is just the way it is. And you just have to believe and you just have to have faith and accept. And I'm like, and then I just went into, well, you just have to design this spreadsheet this way because that's just the way that it works best. And she was like, oh my God, it's you.
What's really cool, I think, is being able to see it externally, so it's not you subjectively, it's objective. And it might be that your brother still needs his box of defenses. So he's still doing that. Okay. That way we can have compassion instead of frustration.
Exactly. I'm seeing how I affect people by seeing how someone else affects people. And that is really, really powerful to me. And I'm not judging brothers at all. I get it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I actually understand it. He has to replace something with something. So what that tells me is he's not doing what I'm doing by getting to the root of the issue,
right,
and slowly breaking that down. Then all of a sudden, those other things don't seem very important in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Like, to me, happiness has become important.
Wow.
Rest has become important. Just being happy is more important to me now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure will just continue to be more and more important as I go through this journey. It's interesting because I totally see it with all of my family.
Right.
And the ones who haven't are still the ones that are stuck in their thing.
What you're also realizing is you're seeing it around you. You're seeing how you were like that, and you're catching yourself, when you slip into that. And that's where things like learning JSON and doing it that way, that's okay because you actually now have a sense of balance. And it is a strength of yours and kind of a superpower that you can really get really immersed in something and dive in and do it. That's great because it's no longer done as a defense. It's not that now.
No, it's not.
I hate the analogy, but I've used it because it makes sense and it works. I call it spoon theory.
Okay.
Sounds weird. It's for, I guess, how some people describe what it's like being neural atypical. How it's so hard because you need to stay in your zone and any little thing pulls you out. So it goes like, I think it applies to everybody. It goes like this. Think of every morning you wake up with a certain number of spoons. That's like your energy resource. You've got, 20 spoons in a day, whatever it is. You wake up with 20 spoons. Everything that pulls you away from something that requires your energy to shift takes a spoon away from you. Then it takes a spoon to get back into it, right? And what we don't realize is how many spoons we just give up without being able to replenish them during the day. So you hit a point where you're all out of spoons. And when you're all out of spoons and somebody needs your attention, you will often, you in particular, just suck it up, just do it, just whatever they need, fine. And you don't
I'll use a chopstick.
right. But you don't have the energy to do it. You might wake up the next day and you only start out with 14 spoons instead of the 20. Previously, you were so rigidly needing your air quoting Bible, your way of doing things, that if boyfriend was doing something in the other room and the table wasn't finished yet, there's like a spoon that's taken away and it keeps whapping you on the head,
Yes.
And it's so frustrating and so annoying, and it's taking up your energy. I think now that it's not such an invasion to have something, to have a spoon taken away or a request made of you, it used to be like, oh, that's too invasive. And your world would crumble if that happened. Now I don't think it crumbles. I do want to acknowledge that it is an energy shift for you.
I 100% agree. A year ago or the last 6 months, I would come home and boyfriend would be wanting to talk about this new thing he's doing for the business, and he wants to make this new light, and he's usually smoked some weed, which makes him super talkative. He's up here and I'm like you said, totally out of spoons. But now I feel a lot less like that at the end of the day. So even though my work is still super busy, and like you said, I'm always keeping myself busy, I don't feel depleted like I used to.
Yeah. That's a function of both getting some rest and having some play and doing some things for you, as well as not so rigidly holding that one singular thing that has to get done.
Exactly. My space affected me. People's moods for the day affected me. Like I was taking in so much and trying to understand it and fix it and make it better, all the while still doing all the things that I do. So the more I let go of that kind of stuff, the more room I have to sort of pay attention to, I guess is maybe not the right word, but to the things that I actually want to be a part of, like boyfriend and his exciting ideas for his business, or, like my kids.
It's not like, wow, cool, nothing bothers me anymore. There's still something about holding that rigidity that's going to be residue for a while. I think you're loosening that quite a bit, which is amazing. There's something, I'm going to go straight for, I would normally use an analogy or dance around it, but I'm going to go straight to something here. Because the way you just talked about it is when there's something contrary to how you need it done, something that isn't in the Bible, so to speak. I would try to understand it, understand why they're doing it, figure it out. And some things that's not going to happen for. Like when you say, I don't understand how somebody could abuse a child or have sex with an 11-year-old. How is that okay? Right? And I'm giving that as, like I told you, I'm going straight for one of the at the heart examples of this. And that's one that I don't think you're really going to make be okay. When you let go of the rigidity of how you're holding how things need to be, which you're doing, you can also look at somebody who's doing something like that, and that's still wrong and not okay. But it won't take so much energy and so many spoons to try to fix it, make it okay, understand it. It takes a lot of mental and emotional energy to focus on that.
Yeah, it does. It does actually. And it's funny, but last night, my eldest sister and I were talking, and our whole family is going out to Chicago for this wedding. somehow it got around to the family members and they did a deep dive. And they literally dove so deep, they figured out that his grandfather, my stepdad, was one of the worst offenders, if you want to say, of like all the things. And sister comes and she is just stressing so much because he can't come to the wedding. Like, there's just no way. It's something that just can't happen. It is.
Yeah, not okay.
And you could see it on her face. Like, she is really having a lot of stress around it. And it was so weird because she even called it my Yoda moment.
Interesting.
She was like, the way that you responded to that was so unlike you. And I said, but the stress of this happening, I don't think it needs to be stressful. You just say, you know what? The other side of the family is not comfortable with you being there, the end.
Right.
And she was like, really? Do you think it will be that simple? I'm like, if you make it that simple, it's that simple.
Sure.
And it was a whole moment for me too, because normally I would have been like, okay, let's make a plan. So we'll have him come here and then we'll, because normally just the subject and what he's done to others, to us, it really has always created a lot of anxiety in me. But I don't know, for some reason it didn't. I mean, it didn't trigger it. I didn't have a whole episode with my sister. Like, I could have joined her in her moment.
Right.
But I just didn't feel like I cared that much. I don't know if that sounds correct.
I say that phrase a lot too. Like, yeah, I just don't care. And people look at me like, what? And I'm like, no. I mean, it doesn't give me a charge the way it used to. That's what I mean by I don't care. Right.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've felt like that. I've watched people feel like that my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought, wow, like, how do you do that?
Right. It's interesting. I'm going to say 2 words and I want you to kind of dive a little deeper on what we're talking about in terms of these 2 words. Control and boundaries.
So I think my shift as far as control, I'm going to hit that first. The shift for me is happening where I am allowing myself to be okay with not being in control of this particular situation. And I am having to take them one situation at a time.
Yep.
But I am looking at it and saying, okay, do I need to build this shelf right now to get it off the floor?
Right.
Yesterday me or a year ago me would have been like, oh, hell yeah. In fact, I would have probably lost it when I came home last night because that's how it looked when I got home.
Sure.
But I didn't. I don't love that it's in pieces all over the living room floor. But okay, that's what's happening. But it's not my responsibility. The control thing is actually becoming a really, really nice feeling in meetings, in so many aspects of work. I let other people volunteer for things and say, give ideas for things. And I'm just becoming more of a participant than what did we call it? I'm more of an observer than a participant.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm more than willing to participate, but instead of volunteering myself for everything, I'm just watching and seeing like, okay, well, maybe this person has a talent because I have a way that I believe things should be done. And I can almost guarantee that the person who's going to do it instead of me is not going to do it the way I believe would be the most effective but so what? Why is it it's not my problem to fix really if I don't make it that. And I think that's applying across the board.
Right.
For the control aspect. What was the other one you said? It was control and what?
Boundaries.
Boundaries, yes. I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, I suppose, at some point.
Yep.
Especially for me, because if I'm setting my own boundaries for what I'm willing to take on or get involved in, and I'm talking across the board, not just at work.
Right.
But like right now, there's a situation going on between boyfriend and my brother. They've had a falling out. I've literally told myself that this is between them. So my knee-jerk reaction is to have a chat with brother, have a chat with boyfriend, figure out the problem, bring them back to the table and fix it. But I'm like, those are two grown-ass men. They can do that themselves. So in that sense, I made a boundary. Like I told brother and I told boyfriend, obviously, both of you are very important to me.
Right.
So I'm here if either of you need to talk or vent or whatever it is, but I'm not going to get involved because I'm trying new things and I am not going to get involved. So that was a nice feeling. I guess that you could say was my boundary there with the emotional side of it.
Absolutely.
Because normally those emotions would be huge because both of these men I care for very, very much.
Right.
That's an emotional thing for me to feel kind of the anxiety of the not talking up in the air. Everybody's still fuming. What are we going to talk about? How are we going to make this better?
I really like how you're talking about control in this because I don't have control, and I would say you're almost ready for the t-shirt now. Relax. Nothing's under control. Because it's when you realize you don't have control over these people, over these things, then you actually can relax about it.
Because before I'm sure in my subconscious, I knew I had no control, but I had to still control all the pieces that I could.
Right.
I think back about it and it's like, wow, no wonder I was like having ulcers and panic attacks because I know, obviously I'm not stupid. I know I can't make people stop arguing and make them figure it out. But there is somewhere quieting. It is getting quieter. Yeah. There is a part of me that would always say, oh, but I could do this. Right. And maybe if I did do this. And it was just more and more anxiety.
It's something that, I do think you are actively working on and doing. Yeah, I really like how you're doing all this, really, because it's seeming natural to you, and that's what I said earlier. Like
it's feeling more and more natural
and authentic. Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'm even like, wow,
was that me?
That was awesome how I just did that.
Great.
Or like even like the other day, I was like, why am I not having tons of anxiety right now? I'm like this is cool.
Yeah,
it's a good feeling.
And we're back.
Okay, the end of this session, quick question for you, Doug. And I think I've asked you a similar question along the lines of, especially in the context of Sarah and your work together. Giving any sort of approval statement, like, I really like how you're doing XYZ.
Yeah.
You said something along the lines of, I really like how you're doing this work, Sarah. And there's a question in there. My question...
I'm waiting for it.
Well, the question is like, there's something about that where I'm like, are we giving her approval? And is that very culty to be like, okay, you're doing it right. You're doing therapy right. You're doing this right.
I didn't say she was doing it right.
You didn't say right. You said, I really like how you're doing this work. And why does your opinion matter?
Do you remember what I said right after saying, I really like how you're doing this?
Nope.
Because
I extrapolated.
I said the word because.
Oh, okay. So you explained yourself more.
Yeah. Because it's seeming more natural to you.
Okay.
I really like how you're doing this because it's seeming more natural to you. In fact, I would say, Kenzie.
Yes.
I really like how you've been doing this podcast because it's seeming more natural to you.
Okay. And I'm trying to think about how I would digest that.
They can't see this, our listeners, because we're not on video yet.
What did I do?
So as soon as I said, I really like how you're doing this podcast, you nervously laughed, which might pick up on the mic.
Probably.
You looked uncomfortable. And then when I said, because you seem more natural doing this,
the irony,
you actually took it in.
Oh, okay.
Like it shifted in you.
You're proving your point.
I am.
Because you made it about me and how
you made it about you.
But you said because it's becoming more natural for you. And thus I was able to be like, oh, you're right. Yeah, sure.
If we were doing therapy, I would have paused and said, wait, what just happened there?
What just came up for you?
Yeah, as soon as I said, I really like how you're doing this,
Doug,
you
I
kind
think
of
you know
nervously
exactly
laughed.
what came up for me. Like, yeah. Okay. So in the beginning of the podcast, now we're going back to the beginning. Okay. I love the progress that she's clearly making. And then I guess this relates back to what I was just saying.
I love the progress that she's really making.
Yeah, I know. This is what I was about to say, Doug, is that, okay, I get it now, right? Because at the end, you said basically the same thing. And I'm thinking, oh, yeah, damn, you're right. That's it. I am very happy for the progress that she's making. And that's cool. And I guess there's no problem with saying that. I guess. I don't know. I guess, look, I've never worked with a cult survivor. So I'm also very cautious about how I would come off, especially in a position of power, kind of, I'm putting that in quotes, but as an older dude therapist.
Sure.
Right?
But something that I think you can recognize is anytime that I give her credit for something, that I make sure it's her giving herself credit.
Her, not just like, I'm so proud of you, Sarah.
I'm bestowing upon you this pride.
Yeah.
Here, now you can have it.
Right.
Like, no, it doesn't come from
Here's
me.
your permission to be proud of yourself.
Right.
Hell no. That ain't our job. Okay, so we do get to figure out what she means by this progress, right? And like what she likes and what's becoming more natural and instinctive for her, which is like, ooh, she's asking people for help. She's doing her coping skills or whatever you want to call them. I think this is the part where she's talking about like drumming and baking bread or whatever the things are that like work for her, right? Which is beautiful. And then talking about her ex and then the karma and all of that, which partially I'm like, okay, we're veering into karma kind of judgmental territory, but not really. I think she's kind of brushing it off in a way that's like, like, you know, that's on them, whatever. And I'm just concerned with my kids. Like,
even just the way you said it, like, that shows more progress for Sarah.
Yeah, because she's not getting hung up on it and like trying to justify or intellectualize or figure it out. And like, why would people do this? Right? Which she still does sometimes, and we'll get to that, right?
Oh,
like,
we will.
A little bit. But she's made progress there too, a lot.
Totally.
Is this where she says, I'm not feeling unrelaxed?
Yeah. That was great because she was talking about even doing something that she loves, like figuring out the new coding at work and how this goes and what that means. And we talk about that's still a lot of energy. It's still a lot of stress and still a lot of this. Yeah. But that was along the lines of what she said at the beginning of the session. Like, I'm leaving work at work. I'm coming home and hanging out. and she said, I think corrected herself. I don't remember exactly the cadence of her voice. I'm more relaxed. Well, I don't feel unrelaxed this week.
Right. And that double negative hit me for a second. I was like, wait a minute. I don't feel unrelaxed. And I'm like, oh, she's just saying the same thing. Like, she feels a little more relaxed. And that's
the subtlety though was really cool of the double negative.
Okay, how did you hear that?
Okay, so when she said, I felt so relaxed, she instantly went to, I don't feel unrelaxed, because feeling relaxed is new for her.
Right, and she's used to feeling unrelaxed.
Right. She kind of framed it as it's the absence of this unrelaxed feeling. Mm-hmm. It's not yet the presence of feeling relaxed. That's how I heard it. That's how I kind of logged it and pinned it.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Oh, okay. We're still going to, at some point, work on that and lean into like, the things that you do like that are relaxing. Like, let's go there. But right now I'm getting rid of the things that are unrelaxing to me. Like, I'm not this and I'm not that.
Okay. You make an interpretation here, a very, very brief and simple interpretation, but an interpretation nonetheless. You say, I think something along the lines of, that's you prioritizing yourself. Do you consider that an interpretation? Like in the therapy definition, is that an interpretation? And since we are supposed to be, or we're taught to be careful and sparing with our interpretations, I'm curious what your view is on that.
Is that an interpretation? Sure. I could see how you'd go, like she's talking about, I'm doing this, this, and this. I could have let her see that and go there like, oh, well, what's going on? What is that?
Yeah. Well, you kind of get there, right? Because you do say, well, what's changed for you? Which is like one of my favorite questions to ask a client. Right. Because then you're getting into their...
I use the word prioritizing first because I don't know that she would. I don't know that she would say almost ever. Maybe now in real time she would say this, but I don't know that she would necessarily go to I am putting myself first. I don't think,
No,
certainly
I don't
as
think
a mother
would.
and as a person, she doesn't do that.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? You're using a word that she wouldn't maybe normally use at this point. So that to me makes it even more of an interpretation, right? Because you're talking from your perspective. Yeah.
Yes. I use the word, then I get her to explain it.
Okay. So you're offering up this perspective and seeing how it lands for her.
Going way back to when I was telling you I'd work with the foster kids
right
down in South Central LA, right?
Yes.
And go, oh, wow, you're really angry right now. They go, no, I'm not angry. I'm this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like a reflection, really.
Yeah. And it's just, oh, that's you prioritizing. I get what you're saying and you're not wrong.
The more we talk it out, I'm like, it's kind of just reflective listening, really, at its core. Like, that's just all you're doing. You're just reflecting what you're hearing. And if it's wrong, then you're giving them a chance to tell you that that's wrong.
Right.
Like, no, actually, I think I'm just doing X, Y, Z, which is the next little bit, which is you're asking her, what do you think has changed for you?
Right. I've always been like, work, leave, come back, work. Right.
Yeah.
And now I'm telling people like, no, here's this new drum beat and here's this, and this is what's going on. And so she's explaining what prioritizing looks like in a sense, without it being the word prioritizing. We're not saying.
Right. Because I don't think she would like that word.
No,
like she would not come up with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I threw it in there.
And maybe also a little bit of like exposure to the word, right?
Absolutely.
Like it's not a bad thing to prioritize
100%.
yourself.
What I didn't do this time is preface it. Like going, wow.
Yeah, you might not like this.
Right.
Yeah.
You might not like this, but it sounds like you're prioritizing yourself.
Yeah.
That would have been different.
Yeah, because this is actually more subtle. It's just like, oh, sounds like you're prioritizing yourself. Cool.
Right. And then she's explaining it. If I went, wow, well, okay, hang on a second. Because it actually, you're not going to like this, but it sounds like you're prioritizing yourself.
When would you have said it that way?
If what we wanted to talk about was the function of prioritizing myself, the function of thinking of my own needs and being selfish in a not negative way.
Right. But because that wasn't the quote unquote problem or the focus.
It wasn't the focus. And she will hear this right now. And she will kind of go, right? Hey, Sarah, how's it going? She will hear this and go, yeah, I was prioritizing myself. Yeah, that's good. That's cool. Right.
Now, especially.
Now, right. So now we could use that word. But if I said it then, it would have taken her out of this and she would have gone, oh, wow.
What does that mean?
Oh, what does that mean? I am doing that.
Am I selfish?
Now we're in a whole different pursuit. I didn't want to call too much attention to it, but I used a word for it that I could pin and come back to and be like, yeah, remember when you were prioritizing yourself? Like when you were doing all the drum beats and making the bread? And she's like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that felt
right.
good.
I was prioritizing myself. I did put myself, but if we called too much attention to it, she might shy away from it.
Nice.
So you approve?
Yeah, I'm giving you permission to feel proud of yourself in that moment, Doug. Have you read the book, The Heroic Client? Kind of an older therapy book, maybe
Doesn't
from the
sound familiar.
90s even, or early 2000s. Okay, well, I just read it, and one of the main themes or messages is like, we want to access the client's theory of change and make it about how they perceive the pursuit of change. Like, what does that entail? How does it happen? From even the first session, like, how do you think you need to change? What needs to happen in order for you to reach these goals or values or whatever? I was just saying that in the context of like, I love that you asked her this question because I really love asking clients this question too. Like, what do you think has changed for you?
Right.
Because it helps bring awareness to what's going on and kind of take inventory of the circumstances and the factors that have led to the change, and also shows what they are, here's the word again, prioritizing, right? Like what they focus on.
It works.
I know, ooh, mystical.
Not mystical, science. It's neurolinguistic programming.
You're right. Oh, God damn, you're right. That made my heart so happy. I love science, but you're right. What do you think has changed for you? And then their answer is very
Even
telling.
me saying that it was science
What?
was a little bit of NLP too.
Was it what?
NLP, neurolinguistic programming. Because it put in your
LP.
head. NLP.
NLP, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It put in your head the idea of, oh, this is science. Like you just lit up for a second.
And then I lit up. I know. I have such a bias. I really do.
Right.
It's
so I
real.
played into that bias by throwing in
did.
some science to doing this thing
You got me.
that we did. And now it's probably something that you might do and you might take on.
Because it aligns with my values. Ooh, which is what I'm saying here, right? Is that what has changed for you? Their answer is going to be very telling of what their values are and what they want. And oh, I just love it. I think it's a great question.
Absolutely.
That's it. No question there, just a comment.
There was something really cool when I said, what do you think has changed for you?
Yeah.
That she said, I started telling myself on purpose what you told me, which is this, right?
Okay. How do you take that? Because it's like, oh, so you're giving me the credit? What?
We've talked about this before, like clients that will hear our voice in their head.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like taking that credit is like, oh, I just hear your voice in my head.
It's still them.
Yes.
That's them using therapy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're the one doing it.
Well, I was just talking to a client about this the other day because she is not convinced that that is her own progress. And I'm like, yes, it is. Like, just because it maybe originally comes from me, it's a reflection of you and our work together. And you are the one doing the work in between sessions and using that voice.
What if it's just a fluke?
Oh, God. How is it a fluke if it happens almost every day, to the point where it becomes automatic? That's how change happened.
Grow the Yoda inside of you, right?
Yes.
We hear the Vader voice, the critical voice. We need to grow the Yoda voice, right? For Sarah right now, her Yoda voice has my voice.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But she's growing her own.
It's weird.
That's her. She's not doing it because I told her to, like Berg or like somebody in the cult. Or that's what she needs to do therapy right, as you would say earlier, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, I heard your voice in my head telling me this. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it this way.
Don't you think, I'm sorry, I cannot help it. My thoughts just are taking over right now about how a narcissistic therapist could really take that and run with it. Like my thoughts are determining your actions in a way. Like, whoa, it's just a little scary, I think.
Well, and even I kind of half joke about NLP, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And some people would go, ooh, you're manipulating them.
That's the cult
like
thing that I'm talking
Leonardo
about.
DiCaprio in Inception, and that's happening, and what are you doing, and all that. Ooh.
Yes, the manipulative factor there. It just freaks me out.
I mean, look, manipulate, I think, is not a negative word.
I know. I was just about to say, you know what? We need to redefine or re-own the word manipulate because it has such a negative connotation when it doesn't inherently mean something negative.
I've talked about this before on the podcast several years ago, so whoever's listening now probably doesn't remember. It
just means to influence or maybe change something.
Did you ever play with Play-Doh when you were a kid?
Yeah, you're manipulating Play-Doh.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yep.
Look at us on our high horse making real neuro-linguistic comments. I don't even know. That's the first time I'm hearing of this, surprisingly. NLP.
Oh, no, you've heard about it many times. You just don't realize
Stop.
it. No, that's
freaky.
That's right. That is freaky.
Yoda.
But when people are doing that with malintent, or they're doing that to actually manipulate somebody and take control of somebody, that's very icky. You're right.
Yeah.
When I'm doing versions of it, it's to bring something authentic out in them.
Yes.
And
so it is a reflection of them.
Yes, absolutely.
I hope my client's listening to this right now. It is a reflection of you.
Right?
Yeah. Speaking of control.
Yes, bring it on.
I like the framing of control as a protective mechanism for her, obviously, and for a lot of people. Anxiety, control, hand in hand.
Right.
But I like the question that I think she is starting to, or she had a moment with, I think, where she really resonated with it. Like, does this serve you now?
Right.
Right? There was something about that I really liked. I notice a lot of my notes are things that your client, like Sarah or Drew, really resonate with, because it always hits me the most when they really run with it, or when they're like, I don't know. It's just the most impactful, I think, when they bring it up again, or it's something that really relates.
Yeah. And this was, exactly at the moment when I said, well, what do you think has changed for you?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's the context. Because she was looking at like, do you still need this box of protection and control?
Yes.
And it served you well in the past, right? But do you need it? So I kind of look at that in like all these situations and like less and less. And I have to tell myself like, oh, this is just what's happening. And that's where she even said something like, you should see my house right now. I'm not even doing it. Like, I'm not controlling it this way, and I'm not doing it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And this is where we also get into other people's box of defenses, like with her brother and religion.
Yep.
And I loved this conversation because personally and professionally, I can relate to this and understand that where she goes with the justice warrior kind of data driven, all of that. And especially something as potentially triggering as religion for her, hearing one of her brothers.
With her own brother,
with her own brother. Quoting the Bible verses and all of that stuff. You can totally understand why Sarah hackles would go up and she'd be like, oh my God, shut the fuck up. Like, that is so triggering. And how could you go to religion after this trauma we experienced? Like, it doesn't make sense, right? And that's the data and the control. And then the irony of all of it, right, is realizing, because I think a friend even said it to her, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that sounds just like you.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, I think we talked about this last session with her, like the religion of data, right? And just like the intellectualizing of everything as a defense can be very similar to a religious framework.
Right. And she was holding that same framework. That's why she was so proud to tell me about this. Like, oh, I was telling a coworker about this and they saw that and they were like, oh my God, it's you. And
she acknowledged it and she was like, okay with it.
There was no I got judged. And, oh my God, I'm a horrible person. It's like, oh, now I understand it.
And that's the making sense of things that matters. That insight is beautiful.
And it is the work that our clients are doing outside of therapy.
Right.
You asked me about this last week with her.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, why did you do that? Or why did you give it to her that? Why did you use that analogy? Why did you break that down? Right?
Wow, how annoying I must be.
And here she is going, oh, right, I used it and look at what happened. And here's what happened. Wow, how was that?
And the main thing that I took from all of that, and I think that's because I am very compassion focused in my work, is compassion instead of frustration is so powerful.
Right.
So powerful. And when you offer it to others, you can then offer it to yourself as well.
And I think she's close to that for herself because she was offering to others, seeing it.
Yeah.
Then she was saying, oh my God, this is what I do to my brother. It's helping me understand him. That's going towards the empathy, right? And the compassion.
Yeah. And we all have our ways of dealing with life. I love that. It's so beautiful. It's so just human, right? Like anxiety is an existential given. So cool. Like we all have it and we're all dealing with it in different ways.
And it can be tough when you see that happening for you, in yourself, around you, and then you see it not happening for other people.
And not a but.
Right.
Is that an and not a but situation? Yeah.
Sure.
Let's go with that.
So other people are noticing the shift in her in the same way that she's seeing it other places. And then she's loosening this rigidity. Let me poke at this a little bit.
I put stars next to this. So clearly this hit me, or I had something to say about this. How to help clients see how they affect others, or I guess how they come off to others, I feel like is a very valuable part of the work that maybe doesn't get talked about a lot because we're often a little biased, or like we get our client and their worldview and their perspectives and their stories. So it's their POV, right?
Right.
But a lot of the work is also helping them to consciously, be aware of how they affect others too. But the line there, I think, can be hard to toe, right? Because you don't want to attack or challenge too much. You want to help them slowly kind of realize it.
Right.
And it's not like it's a bad thing who you are, how you affect others, but we all affect others. And how does that affect you? It's the psychodynamics, I guess.
Well, and she said it beautifully. She said, I'm seeing how I affect people by seeing how someone else affects people and how that really is powerful. And I'm not, she goes into, I'm not judging my brother at all. Like, I get it. I understand it.
Or maybe you are judging him a little bit and that's okay, but you're not acting on that judgment.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you can have the second thought that comes up that is compassionate because we can't control that first thought and that's okay.
Absolutely. That judgment is okay to have some judgment without, for her, going into justice warrior mode.
Exactly. And then that's really to her detriment is doing that justice warrior mode, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, my next thing is about spoon theory.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's maybe just a quick little thing, but in all caps, I hate spoon theory too. Like, why is it called spoon theory? It doesn't make any fucking sense. But the theory itself is good. I like the metaphor.
Right.
It's a fine metaphor. But why? And to be fair, I have not gone down the rabbit hole of dissecting why it is called spoon theory. But why is it called spoon theory, Doug? Why? I don't get it. Why do we have a bunch of spoons?
I wish I knew you were going to call me out on this. There's somebody.
Oh, no, he's not prepped. How did you not know? This is a big metaphor.
It's a woman. She's a writer, Christine Miserandino, I think.
Oh, the one who came up with it?
Yeah. Oh, you're Googling it?
Of course. Christine Miserandino.
I got it right.
I'm sorry if I'm messing that up.
She used it to explain chronic illness to somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
Disability and chronic pain.
And I think at the time, so the story goes, you're looking at it, so maybe you know it. I think at the time she was explaining it to somebody, she was in a diner and she used spoons to illustrate her point.
Are you looking it up right now? Wait, I shit you not. I just looked it up and Google provides this AI overview answer now, which weird, but okay.
Okay.
In a 2003 essay, she wrote about this after she used spoons at a diner to explain chronic illness to a friend. You're kidding. Oh yeah. His fists of victory just went up, y'all. I get it. Okay, fine. Good memory. Okay. It's just random. It just happened to be that way. It's not. See, this is what bothers my brain. I get so literal.
So here's okay. I'll give you the. We're medium diving on this.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So my sister told me about this years ago, and I was like, "Ooh, I love that, but why's it got to be spoons?" I didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah.
She just told it to me.
Yeah.
And she didn't pass it off as hers. She probably knew more about it. And I think she sent me a video clip.
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, cool." And then when I was going to introduce it to clients, when I was like, ooh, I like this, I'm going to use this.
Yes.
I was like, oh,
There's
I
something.
literally,
Yeah.
I would say the first 3 or 4 times I used this with clients, I went, oh God, I got to use spoons? Really? Okay, I'm going to do it.
And how did you say it?
I said, well,
look, it's not a perfect
it's
metaphor.
not my thing.
But yeah.
It's spoon, right? And I tried with one client, I tried to use bullets.
Interesting.
Because it was
Violent.
like, well, for him, he was into guns and it was his language. And
that's fair.
You know, you have enough bullets in your guns. You know, when you're out of ammo, you're out of ammo. You know, I was
you
like,
are the gun.
Ooh, maybe I can tailor this to whatever a client's into.
Okay.
And it just did not work as well.
I wish it did though, because I like the analogy of we have a finite amount of energy, right? Like,
yeah,
and
I've had one client, he and his wife do a version of it where they call it spells instead of spoons.
Spells.
You know, I'm out of spells. I can't cast any more spells.
Okay.
I like it because being a Dungeons and Dragons nerd, when you go,
oh
right,
my God, Doug.
you don't have whatever
yeah, you're out of whatever.
You're out of spells.
Yeah, literally spells.
Right? You need to recharge and your character doesn't have enough.
Yeah.
Right? So you're out of spell.
Yeah.
But every time I use it now, it is 100% spoons. And one of the things I think is brilliant about it being spoons is you will never forget it.
Yeah, it's so random that it is memorable. I'll give it that. Well, and I think about literally like a spoon or a silverware drawer, and we're just out of spoons. And it's not like the forks are going to do the same thing.
Enter the spork, my favorite.
Oh,
my
God.
favorite of all the utensils.
Okay. Anyway, where were we? Spoon theory. She's not overextending herself as much anymore. She's loosening things up.
Right.
And she's noticing that and seeing the benefits of that. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Maybe this is what you thought I was going to ask you. I don't know. You're talking about something and she is saying, I forget if it's you or her who says it first, but I just don't care. I just don't care as much anymore.
Oh,
and I'm thinking, is it care or is it that you do care, you're just channeling it differently or like responding to it differently? Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. Okay. And that is part of why I brought that up. Saying I don't care, some people think you're apathetic or you're checked out.
Maybe it's just one of those things.
It's semantics again.
Yeah, it has a bad connotation.
Right.
But really,
but
it's
what
not.
is actually being intimated is I am not as reactive as I used to be.
Sure.
It doesn't bother me as much anymore. I don't care the
I'm
way I
not giving
used
as
to.
much energy to it.
Right.
I'm not giving a full spoon to this.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. But I'm so curious. I feel like I'm not passing a test right now if I can't ask you the question that you thought I was going to ask you.
Right.
What is it? I must know.
I went straight after something with her and I told her, hey, I'm going to go straight for this. So I gave it a preface. There's something about why I went there that I thought you were going to go, whoa, that came out of left field. Why did you just throw the abuse line in there?
Okay, well, maybe you'll be surprised to hear that I didn't think it came out of left field because it was in my notes in parentheses with the whole, where's the line between understanding and that justice warrior intellectual stuff, data-driven stuff, her religion, right? Versus just accepting like, wow, people do bad things, like abuse children in a cult.
Right.
Yeah. And it was certainly random, but it is overarching theme for her. That's a big one that comes up for her because whenever she I see it. Whenever she gets excited or you're getting excited. Oh, I'm getting mixed up. Whenever she goes there, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not whenever, that's overgeneralizing, but when she gets intellectual and heated and very like, I just don't understand, oftentimes it does relate back to her childhood and just like, how the F do people abuse children or something as horrific as whatever happened?
Exactly.
Okay.
So what is absolutely not random is based on what you just said.
Yeah.
That's why I poked at something to see.
Yeah.
Can we go to this emotional place right now or are we going to stay intellectual? So I threw in purposefully.
Yeah.
To see, was there going to be a reaction to it? Was there going to be something there?
It was a little test.
In a sense.
In a way, yeah.
And it was not, I'm not testing her.
Not a test, but
I'm testing the waters.
Yeah,
I'm testing like part
assessment. It was an assessment, maybe.
So here's a big therapeutic reveal. Part of why I think it's important to go back to her saying, I don't understand this. I don't understand this. Because she's holding that intellectual, trying to figure it out so rigidly.
Yes.
underneath that is the emotional.
Is the emotion.
So she is just starting to really recognize how much she's loosening the rigidity.
Right.
That I just wanted to test the waters and tap it a little bit.
Where it was, yeah.
So I introduce it and I see how it went.
Yeah.
And it was not an opening to go to an emotional place, which is totally okay.
You mean because she didn't take it there?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
She didn't take it there. I wasn't going to take a turn in the session to go there.
Unless she went there.
Right.
Yeah.
And partly, sort of like I was half joking about the neurolinguistic stuff before.
Yeah.
It's me throwing it out there the same way that I was throwing the word prioritizing.
I was going to say,
there.
as like exposure almost, or just normalizing.
Right.
Not normalizing child abuse.
Not normalizing. Building an association of her loosening rigidity.
Okay.
And this idea of how can somebody abuse an 11-year-old? Right.
How could someone use the Bible nowadays? How could someone do literally anything that goes against my values? Yeah.
So if we're loosening the rigidity, loosening the intellectualizing, not getting rid of it at all, just loosening it enough to go, okay, now what's underneath there?
Right. Because for her, it is a defense mechanism. And maybe for some people it's not. But typically, if we're getting that rigid about it, there's something deeper under there.
Right.
That's what you're saying. Got it. Okay. Right. Yeah, I was tiptoeing around it, I think, in my notes, but I didn't go exactly
and that's an interesting meta because it was something that I was tiptoeing and just touched a little bit. I wasn't going to go fully there. She's showing how much she's gotten better and how she's noticing it, how people around her are noticing it.
Yeah.
She even says, like, I'm trying new things. And it's really cool in terms of her boundaries and the control issues. And that's something that I think we're building on. I know that we're building on, and we're going to be able to go deeper at some point to this emotional level.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yes. And another great example towards the end here is just her partner and her brother who are kind of in a little spat, in a little fight.
Right.
And Sarah just like really showing the progress in this moment of her setting a boundary with herself and just saying, you know what? Not my monkey, not my circus. Like they're two grown men. You've never heard that before?
I have. I just liked it thrown in.
Yeah, thank you. She's like, no, I don't need to solve that. They're grown men. They're individuals and it's not my problem.
Right.
And I will be there to support if I need to be, but I'm not taking it on myself.
Right.
So that voice is getting a little quieter for her. I don't know if you planted this seed for me, but I always, and when I talk to clients, it's a lot of the times just different radio dials and it's like different voices, different narratives.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that one's getting a little quieter for her, which is really cool.
I like that a lot.
You do. You really like how you're doing this work. I'm bringing it back to the first thing I commented on with your approval.
What you just highlighted, though, about her brother and partner.
Yeah.
It is almost embodying this thing she said a couple weeks ago in her eulogy to the t-shirt, right? In her poem.
Keep calm and...
I do not weep, but look ahead to the day I can say, keep calm, then move out of the way. So this thing with her brother and her partner and what she's actually doing and embodying is what she just wrote in her poem 2 weeks ago, which is keep calm, then move out of the way. So her saying like, I'm going to look to the day when I can say, she didn't have to say it. She just did it.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Through experience.
Right?
Yeah. Her behavior has just changed.
Speaking of moving out of the way.
Yeah.
I think we're going to move out of the way.
I would like to move out of the way.
Okay.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I think we did it.
We might actually move out of the way for the summer. This could be our summer break.
Oh.
So if you don't hear us next week, then we are enjoying summertime as well
miss you.
As you should.
Yeah.
By going back and listening to
every single episode.
Yeah.
Maybe leaving us a voicemail if we figure that out.
Right. It's weird to say like, oh, you can use this to catch up, which I think people need to do. But if you're hearing this, you're caught up.
You're caught up. Yeah.
So thank you for catching up.
Thank you for making it to this point.
That's right.
A true fan.
And I hope you have a GR8 summer.
GR. Oh.
You guys don't sign yearbooks?
I'm sorry. I'm 31. What do you mean? What yearbook am I signing? You mean in the past?
Well, you're not signing one now.
No, we said, what is it? Hags?
Hags?
You've never heard of hags?
Never heard of hags.
Have a great summer.
Oh,
hags.
no. We that would be GR8 summer.
That's funny. Okay. And that probably came up too.
Well,
KIT. Ours was hags. KIT. Kill it, turd.
Wow. Keep in touch?
Keep in touch. Oh, right. Of course.
You know how many people wrote their phone numbers on like,
oh my God, that's crazy.
Like 6th grade culmination or high school? I'm like,
you should call them.
I know. I was like, I should call this
Probably
number.
Half of their numbers are still in operation.
Right. It's going to be like their parents' landline.
Oh, God, no. Oh, that's true. Wait, no. So they probably are not. No. You're too old, Doug. There's no way.
Dang.
That came out so much more forcefully and bluntly than I imagined in my head.
Well, on that note,
sometimes we let the first thought win.
I'm spending the summer looking for the fountain of youth.
Oh, no, Doug, please. You're perfect just the way you are. Aww. And that's how we'll end it. That's a nice little note.
There we go.
Right?
On
Positive
that note.
Have a great summer.
Bye.
Thanks.